I used to work at a small printing company in New Jersey. The place looked normal enough during the day, but at night it felt wrong. The hallways got too quiet, and the lights always seemed a bit dimmer than they should be. Back then, I worked the closing shift with another guy named Evan. He was in his mid-30s, quiet, and never talked unless he had to. I didn't mind that. I'm not very talkative either. But from the very first week, something about him felt off. About a month after I started, my boss asked me to stay an extra hour to help finish an order. Evan was already there, working in the back room. He always stayed late. I never once saw him leave with everyone else. Around 9 p.m., the place was dead silent except for the hum of the printers. I started hearing this weird tapping sound. Slow, irregular, coming from the hallway near the break room. I ignored it at first, thinking maybe it was pipes or something. But when the tapping sped up, like someone tapping with their fingernails, I got uneasy. I called out, "Evan, is that you?" No answer. I kept working until I suddenly heard a soft whisper, almost right behind me. Just one word. "Hey." I spun around so fast I nearly fell out of my chair. But the room was empty. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was tired, that maybe it was the AC vent making a weird sound. But then I noticed something. Evan wasn't in the back room anymore. I hadn't heard him walk out. The lights flickered once. Then again. Then the power in the back room shut off completely. "Evan." I called again, louder this time. Still nothing. I grabbed my phone light and walked down the hallway. The tapping sound started again, faster now, almost frantic. It echoed off the walls, bouncing from one side to the other. My chest tightened with this deep, instinctive feeling that something was wrong. Really wrong. When I reached the break room, I saw Evan standing in the dark, facing the wall. His shoulders rose and fell like he was breathing hard. But he wasn't moving otherwise. Just staring. "Dude, are you okay?" I asked. He didn't turn around. He didn't say a word. Then, in this slow, stiff movement, he lifted his hand and started tapping the wall with one finger. The exact same rhythm I'd been hearing all night. My heart dropped. It wasn't pipes. It wasn't the building. It was him. I took a step back, and the tapping suddenly stopped. Evan turned his head, just his head, toward me, his body still facing the wall. His eyes were wide open, almost too wide, like he wasn't blinking. His voice came out shaky, but the worst part was that he sounded relieved. "Finally found you." I bolted. I didn't even think. I ran straight for the exit, and I didn't stop until I was outside under the street lamps. When I finally turned back, Evan was standing at the glass door, still watching me with those wide eyes. I quit the next morning. A few weeks later, my old boss told me that Evan had been let go. Not because of what happened with me, but because multiple workers had complained about him wandering the building at night, tapping on walls, whispering their names even when he didn't know them. The part that still makes my skin crawl. My boss said that sometimes, even after Evan was fired, workers would hear tapping in empty hallways long after closing. A few years ago, I worked at a warehouse in upstate New York. It was one of those jobs where no one wanted to be there, but everyone needed the paycheck. The only person who ever seemed genuinely happy was this woman named Cheryl. She was always smiling, always cheerful, always talking about how life was wonderful. It might sound nice, but trust me, there was something about her smile that made your stomach twist. It was too wide, too forced, like she was stretching her face into an expression she didn't actually feel. People joked that she was a robot, or secretly miserable, or trying way too hard. But the longer I worked with her, the more uncomfortable I got. One day, we were paired together to reorganize a supply room. Small space, no windows, one door. I didn't love the idea of being alone in there with her, but I didn't really have a choice. We got to work, and everything was fine at first. But I started noticing her staring at me. Not glancing, not checking, staring. Whenever I turned around, her eyes snapped away like she was pretending not to. I tried to ignore it until she finally said, in this soft, almost giddy voice, "You don't smile enough." I laughed a little, awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess not." "You should smile more," she said again. "People should smile. People should be happy." I didn't know what to say. Her grin stretched, so wide it looked painful. Then she stepped closer, and closer, until she was inches from my face. Her voice dropped low, way too serious. "Why don't you smile?" I backed up quickly, knocking into a shelf. She didn't flinch. She just watched me with this rigid, frozen expression, eyes wide, smile unblinking. I muttered something about needing to take a bathroom break, and slipped out of the room. I avoided her the rest of the day. But that night, I got a message from an unknown number. No text, just a photo. A picture of me smiling at work, taken weeks earlier during a staff event. I didn't even remember smiling that day. The next morning, Cheryl approached me in the parking lot. Same grin, same two wide eyes. "I'm so glad you're smiling today," she said. I wasn't smiling, not even close. But she leaned forward, tilting her head like she was studying me. "Your face looks better that way." I turned and walked inside. I didn't say anything. But from then on, every day I came in, there would be a new printed photo taped somewhere near my locker. Each one of me smiling from different angles, different days. Some of them I had never seen before and definitely didn't remember happening. I finally told my manager, who brushed it off as some weird prank. But one morning, when the smell of fresh paper and ink hit me as I opened my locker, I found an envelope. Inside was a photo taken from inside my apartment. Me, sleeping in my bed. A tiny sticky note was attached. "You look so much happier when you're not awake." I moved out of that apartment within 24 hours. When I checked if Cheryl still worked at the warehouse, they told me she had stopped showing up a week earlier. No one ever heard from her again. But sometimes, late at night, I still get pictures sent from random numbers. And in all of them, I'm smiling. This last story happened just 2 years ago when I was working at a tech support center. There were about 40 of us, all squeezed into cubicles that felt more like cages. The coworker involved was a guy named Mark, quiet, nerdy, and awkward, but harmless. Or at least that's what we thought. Mark had this strange habit of knowing things about people. Not normal things. Personal things. Things no one ever told him. He'd casually mention someone's hometown, their siblings' names, where they went to school, even things they did on weekends. Whenever we asked how he knew, he would just say, "I pay attention." One night, I drew the short straw and had to stay late to finish report logs. To my surprise, Mark was still there too, sitting in his cubicle with only his monitor light on. The rest of the office was dark. I nodded at him as I walked by. He didn't nod back. He just whispered, "You shouldn't be here alone." I laughed nervously. "Well, you're here too." He turned in his chair, slowly, like the movement hurt him. "I'm not alone," he said. "But you are." That sentence sent a chill straight through me. I brushed it off as him being weird again and went back to my desk. After about 10 minutes, I heard footsteps, soft but quick, pacing behind the cubicles. I called out, "Mark?" No response. The footsteps stopped right behind my cubicle wall. I stood up to look, but no one was there. Mark's cubicle was empty too. I grabbed my bag, deciding to finish the logs at home. As I headed toward the exit, I heard something from the far end of the office, a soft muttering, repeating the same phrase. "I know you. I know you. I know you." The emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows down the rows of cubicles. I followed the sound until I realized it was coming from the server room. The door was slightly open. Against every instinct I had, I pushed it wider. Mark was sitting on the floor, surrounded by printed papers, thousands of them, all with pictures of employees. Photos from social media, security cameras, and personal photos taken from angles no one should have access to. Some were from inside people's cars, some from inside their homes, some while they slept. I felt my body freeze when I saw a stack labeled with my name. The photos showed me at home, at the grocery store, taking out trash, unlocking my door, sitting on my couch, dozens and dozens of moments I thought were private. Mark looked up at me with this desperate, almost pleading expression. "I told you I pay attention," he said. "But you keep ignoring me." "They all do. I'm just trying to keep track, to keep you safe." "Safe from what?" I asked, though I barely recognized my own voice. He smiled, not a kind smile, but a sad one. "From them," he whispered. Before I could ask who he meant, the overhead lights shut off and the entire server room went pitch black. I slammed the door behind me and sprinted down the hallway. I didn't stop running until I reached the parking lot. The next day, Mark didn't show up for work. Company security searched the server room, but all the papers were gone. Every photo, every file, like they had never existed. But I know what I saw. And sometimes, late at night, I get this strange feeling, like someone is watching me from just out of sight. And every time I look over my shoulder, I think of Mark's words. "I'm not alone, but you are."